Tell me what you know. Tell me what you know.
Welcome, ladies and gents, to this thing called podcast. My name is Jay Bravo, and we are live in Set the Pace Studios, and we are ready to rock and tell more tales of this illustrious city and this place called Chapeltown in Leeds. With me right now is, words get thrown around loosely like legends, pioneers, architects, but it is not being used lightly today. Next to me is a brilliant man, an illustrious, fantastic hairstylist, barber, teacher, trainer, guardian, and a shining example of how it is to represent any kind of community in the UK. It is my pleasure to welcome BARBER B into the studio.
Mr. Bravo, thank you very much. That was quite an introduction. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yes. So we've invited you here to just tell your story. I mean, a lot of people just know you from the area, and they say, "What Barber," and they come into your fantastic place, Piranha Studios, and they get their hair snipped up. They look nice, they look fresh, they look clean. They go where they gotta go, check where they gotta check, and handle the business they gotta handle. But I don't know if a lot of people really know how long and the journey that you have took to get to the point that where you are at now, and the steps that you have had to make basically for yourself. It was like I was saying to you yesterday, the time you took with me when you were snipping me up during the whole quarantine times. And you was just telling me about, you took like 10 minutes, and you brought down, and I was like, yo, this is unheard of. Like I've never heard anything like this about the way that you got to where you are.
Okay, all right. I'll start from the beginning, if you like.
Yeah, please.
We're going back to probably the very early 90s. I've been cutting hair now 30 years. It's my 30-year anniversary this year. So BARBER B is going to be 30. So please look out for forthcoming events. We'll be doing we're doing a Piranha party. We're going to do a Sunday brunch. We've got a few things going on. So that's later on. But 30 years ago, my entrepreneurial journey started probably about 38, with my first paper round, which
right.
Again, my paper round encouraged me to kind of work for myself, get my own money, but also I got my first credit card when I was 13, and I got my first credit card from Cooler Bar.
Right,
Cooler
okay.
Bar, for those who don't know, was the local ice cream man.
Yes.
And he would, if I ever needed ice cream, he would give me an ice cream wherever I was. And when I finished my paper round, my money went straight to Cooler Bar. Every single time.
Yes.
He was a trusted guy in the community. So it started from back in those very early days. And he kindly trusted me, and it's been that ever since. After the paper round, I then became a mechanic, and I worked for a guy up in Hairles, Auto Traders. I was about 14. I used to fit starters and alternators and take them out. The guy was quite a big guy who was overweight, so he used to have me go underneath the cars, take out starters and alternators. We'd recondition them and then teach me to put them back in. Then I got off. My next Saturday job was in Leeds City Market, where I worked for a butcher's, and I was just the cleaner. I used to just have to clean the shop and look after customers, and then I moved on to serving meat and retailing, and I loved that job. I became kind of engrossed in butchery, so I went to college. I became the first black butcher or ethnic or man of colour to be a butcher. I was the first student to make 100% attendance at the college. I used to enter all of the butchery competitions because we used to dress windows and make creative kind of statues and models out of the meat. There was a whole kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Artistic side to butchery, believe it or not.
I don't believe it. I don't like.
But
please,
there was, and
please
there is,
elaborate, man.
So we would take a loin of lamb and turn it into a crown roast. You would be asked to butcher a leg of beef and make it into a church or something. There was a very creative dressing shop windows was another thing. There was competitions for dressing up a butcher's shop window. The old traditional butchers used to have a fancy window, the way that you place your chops and cut them all exactly the same size, and the way you made your steaks, and you dressed the window with vegetables, and you would use props, and there was a whole artistic side to butchery. So then I became a slaughterman. I worked in the abattoirs where you would kill the meat, and I got into the science of it all. I got into the second year. Then I was going to become a meat inspector. A meat inspector is the person who verifies the meat for human consumption, and doing that kind of course was like doing a degree course. So you could go to university. You didn't have to go to university because I was going to become an environmental health officer off the back of becoming a meat inspector. And to become an environmental health officer, you get to work for the council, and in order to work for the council, you got a company car. I didn't want to be an environmental health officer. I wanted the company car. So that was the that was the goal.
The motivation.
That was the motivation behind that. But then along the way came Gary. Now Gary was a Jamaican barber who just landed in Leeds. Some of the local community members helped him come here, and this guy was amazing. He could draw pictures and patterns on hair that was nobody had ever seen it before, apart from Mr. Romano, who used to do the odd tram lines here and there. Romano is a good friend of mine, and I hold him in great admiration. He barbered for 50 years. I had the pleasure of giving him an award a few years ago via the Leeds City Museum and Monk and all the people at the hip hop
Historian Society.
Historian Society. So me and him Romano was like the man before me, and Gary, the Jamaican barber that came to Leeds, he was my inspiration. He used to cut hair in Mandela Centre, he cut hair in Port Newton Park. He could draw pattern. The first haircut I had was a dragon on my head, and by this point I was working in a hosiery warehouse for ladies' underwear and tights and all that kind of stuff. So I used to be a warehouseman, and I went to work with this dragon in my head, and they couldn't believe it. It was amazing. This guy was fantastic. He was here for 6 months, and for 6 months I got my hair cut every week, every 2 weeks, and then he disappeared back to Jamaica. And then a few of the lads around Leeds started cutting hair, a few local people, Brian Claxton, Han. A lot of people might not know this. He was barbering before me. Sasha Ruin, who was still a barber. Bibbs. He was barbering before me. And then I found my first pair of clippers in a skip. Now, growing up as a young man in Chapeltown, going in skips was a way of me making money. People will see it as well, what you're doing in a skip. But I used to go to all the rich areas out of Leeds, you know, up around there, or Woodley, and go skip raiding and pull things out, old TVs. We used to fix the TVs, old speakers, radiograms, furniture. And we used to rebuild it, keep it at home sometimes, sell it. But it was just a way of making money. Up until this day, there's not a skip I will go past and not have a look in it, because there's always something useful. And so anyway, I found these clippers, I fixed them up, and there was a shortage of barbers. Everybody was still going to Romano's, and I thought, well, it can't be that hard to cut hair. Surely I can give it a go. So I got my little brother, pinned him to a chair because he didn't like going to he didn't like going to the barbers. Give him a haircut. He had like a big afro. I give him a high top cane. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I shaved off the side and I give him a lightning strike.
Did you say that the high top cane?
High top cane. Anybody who knows what a high top cane is, where we're going in the early 90s, everybody had, as everybody has now, the high top cane.
Is that as reference to Big Daddy Cane?
Big Daddy Cane, yeah. And New Jack City had just landed, all those kind of films, so all the high top haircuts, long haircuts were very fashionable for me. I put a lightning strike in the side of my brother's head, and it was amazing, and I was actually hooked. From that moment, I knew this is what I needed to be doing. I didn't know how or why, but it was just something came over me. I nearly took my brother's ear off because I shaped across the top of his ear, clipped the top of his ear with my clippers, cut him up. I had to hit him to get him to keep still. Immediately, as soon as I finished doing my brother's hair, I went round to his best mate's house, Winston, Scum, as some people may know. I did his hair, and then Nookie and Bigger.
Yeah.
They were first, you know, God rest his soul, Bigger. They were two of the first people. They were on the list of the 5, 6, 10 people whose hair I first cut. And I can remember that I just went round Chapeltown, knocking on people's doors, telling them that I'm a barber, and I'll cut your hair for free. I just wanted to learn. And all I did was draw on hair, just like Gary, the Jamaican barber that came. His influence and his, you know, I owe him, his inspiration to me is next level, because it was just totally blew my mind. So I embarked on this journey of wanting to be a barber. I just cut hair because I could. I didn't do it for money, I did it for free. I used to go to people's houses, there'd be kids all lined up. I would get dinner, they'd, you know, look after me, give me drinks, and then people started giving me money. So then I started taking it, and then I was like, okay. At the meantime, I was still at college, I was still butchering, I was still a full-time student, but I was so busy with the barbering, I bought myself a little car for 150 quid, at Austin Allegro. It was mustard, like a mustard colour, no insurance, no MOT, no tax, it was just raw ragga. So the haircutting, the barbering paid for the fuel for the car. I was only charging 2 or 3 quid. But by this point, I'd mastered the art of hair tattooing. Everybody got the same thing. It was a design and a pattern, and I became the man. Within 6 months, I'd smashed it. It was just amazing. I could not believe how fast I'd learned, and the money was coming in slowly. I was up to like £4 a haircut. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I'm getting paid for something that I love doing. It was unreal. I then started cutting hair at the Mandela Centre, the same way that Gary did. I then cut hair in the park, the same way that Gary did. I started working more. I had my car. I still didn't have no insurance on my car and everything. But college was going wayward. I kind of had to give up college. It was either college or barbering, so I decided to make the move and leave college before I finished my second year of butchering. I got through the management course, and I got the company car, i.e. the Allegro.
Oh right, okay. So you met the.
You remember the
You
end
met
game?
the task.
Yeah,
You completed the task.
I completed the task.
The dream.
Along the way, then I met Maisie, who had a little hairdressing unit down on Gaythorne Terrace. Now, I was born and brought up on Gaythorne Terrace, Gaythorne Street, where Chris Blues was and Sunny's and all the old haunts that everybody used to go and party.
Yeah.
So I'm about 18 or 19 now, and it was just. I had people. The shop was the size of your average bathroom. There was enough room in there for one chair, one mirror. I got my first high chair off of BARBER B. He kindly donated a chair for the shop, and I was just busy. I had people queuing out the door day and night. I could not rest. I did not stop cutting hair. It was just amazing. I just loved it, and everybody still got patterns. I was a pattern king. But then not everybody wanted patterns, so I kind of learned my craft from listening to my clients. And haircuts would always take me a long time because I would always listen. And I owe my craft pretty much to my community, because without my community, I wouldn't have achieved and I wouldn't have got to where I am today without the trust and the love of my community. I've always been very kind of community led. I was on the management committee for the Mandela Centre for a lot of years. I was on the carnival committee for a few years. I tried to kind of, get involved. I did my own community events. Eventually with the barbering, I started going to barbering competitions and doing hair shows. I won numerous, I was winning trophies for fun. I used to go to a competition knowing I'd won. I won the Yorkshire champion, Hull and Humberside champion, all the regional, these were competitions run by the National Hairdressing Federation, which was like more like a commercial, like white, there was nothing for Afro hair. You couldn't go and learn to cut Afro hair. There was nowhere where you could get a qualification. There was no way you could learn to use a cutthroat razor. There was no way you could learn to kind of do patterns and be a creative. When I first started, all the patterns were saying, "Oh, you have to be black. It only suits black guys." And
oh right, okay, right. So
it was very much a cultural thing, and it was come from Jamaica, and it was very artistic, and I wanted to break down some of these barriers. So going to the competitions helped me to do that, and I was a leader. I used to have all the trophies lined up in my shop. I became the British Student Barber of the Year 3 times straight. I went to London and I did all the black Afro hair shows. People in London thought, well, barbers from Leeds, from up north, they can't cut hair like us. I couldn't even get into the shows in London and Birmingham. I had to represent a shop in London.
Oh, right, okay, right. So
I phoned round to loads of barber shops in London and to ask them, listen, I'm a barber from Leeds. I want to come to the hair show. Can I represent your shop? Can you imagine people asking you, just a random stranger phoning you up to say, well, can I represent your shop? And they hadn't. This is all before the days of social media. There's no phone, so everything was what I would call flat foot. So on the hustle. And so you had to do things a hard way. Anyway, I got a shop to let me represent them, and I went to a barber competition in London, and I came 4th or 5th the first time. I was really annoyed because I knew I was better than them. But it was because I wasn't in their clique. They were all Southerners and from the Midlands, and then I was from Leeds, Northern. I was a country boy. Them man can't cut hair, but I knew that I was better than them. So I went to a show in Birmingham, and I came second. And when I went to this show in Birmingham, I took my own barber's chair because what I'd noticed with the competitions, it wouldn't be like in the salon. It would be just, a little office chair, a mirror if you were lucky. You were bent over, so it didn't reflect the real working conditions. And if you had 20 minutes to do a haircut, you couldn't do it. So I took my own, and I walked on stage. They said you can bring your own tools. I was the only barber who took his own chair.
Right, okay.
So I walked on stage with a full-size barber chair, and plonked it down. And at this point, I got the audience's approval already. During that competition, I think my clippers, the electric to my clippers failed. So there was that I had to go through. Anyway, I came second and I was over the moon. I'd won all these white competitions that I used to go to, but there was nobody that was as good as me. So coming second against my peers and other people that were doing exactly the same thing as me was a better win. It meant more than coming first.
In the field of I don't know, a free field. That's what they call it in the gaming community. They call it free when you like you said, when I know I'm gonna win in that environment, as opposed to when you're up against your actual peers and people that are on the same mindset as you.
Yeah. So that was one of my favourite wins. I'd started making it into like hair magazines and a lot of literature, and then one year, I entered the British Student of the Year competition, and it was the year that Nelson Mandela got released from prison. So I did a haircut to commemorate this fact. It was a 3D haircut. It was a high top cane. I did a map of Africa. I coloured it red, gold and green. I put a fist in the back. I wrote Black Power up one side, 100% freedom up the other side. It was a full colour haircut. It was amazing. It was some of the best work I'd ever produced. And then on the other haircut I did, it was dolphins swimming through the ocean with a Japanese sunrise and mountains. Again, I dyed it and coloured it. By this point, I've been cutting hair a couple of years, and I was taking everything to the next level. I wanted to be the best in the country. I decided I was going to be the best barber in the world. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I've been trying to achieve ever since I picked up clippers. So I did this competition and I never won, and I was absolutely fuming. Right. I was so upset. I'd already won this trophy twice, so this was my third attempt.
Right.
And each time you won the trophy, you won £1,000.
Okay. Right. Okay.
So it was like money in the bank. I went to this. Yeah. I took a couple of clients of mine, Andrew Turner, a very, very good friend of mine, and there was his best mate. Oh, it's gonna come back to me. DaCosta. These are all guys I've been cutting the hair from they were little kids, and another gentleman called Troy, who had the dolphins in the back of his hair. These are all big men now and good friends of mine, but again, if it wasn't for these guys trusting me and coming to the competitions and letting me do their hair, again, I wouldn't be where I am today. Anyway, I didn't win this competition. I lost. They said I came second, but it wasn't because my work wasn't the best, because it was the best, because I know it was the best. It was the message in the haircut. It was political. This haircut was... We've got to remember it was a mainstream white competition, and I'd come with...
Free Nelson
Mandela, Black Africa. You know, this was a statement piece. It was the best piece of work I'd ever produced, and I was so annoyed. I left that competition seething, and I vowed I would never enter another competition ever again, and I never did. But what I did do, I would turn up to every competition with a team of people, with all my work. My work was always better than the work that was on the competition floor.
Oh, but you would exhibit. I would
do an exhibition at the competitions and declare I was the best.
Right.
And my work was always better, and it still is. I still that to this day. I go to all the hair shows, I go to all the exhibitions. I take a team of people. I produce loads of work, and I just exhibit my work and say, "Listen, this is it." I don't even have to say I'm the best, because my work speaks for itself.
I'll tell you this. Can I say this quickly? Right. That what you said there. That is the basis of the movie, The Shaolin versus the Wu-Tang. And that's what the Wu-Tang did. He got expelled because he wanted to basically he wanted to use his skills for the government.
Yeah.
And the Shaolin was like, you're not allowed to do that. So they tried to subdue him and beat him down. They couldn't beat him, so they expelled him. And then he was like, well, I might be expelled. I might not be. I'm not a Shaolin, but I'm still the best. So then he made Wu-Tang.
And Wu-Tang, I used to do loads of Wu-Tang signs back in the day, going back to that, and the Michigan and Chicago Bulls. I just from I lost that competition. I took it on the chin, and I've never stopped doing shows and hair shows.
Yeah.
In fact, doing all those hair shows and exhibitions kind of gave me my next, and that's when I decided, right, I need to take this to the next level now. And they kind of changed the way that my business was run and the direction. Whilst I had my shop in Chapeltown, I then got a new shop in Chapeltown, on Roundy Road. We had a big shop front, had a big shop window. That shop was called Affirmations, for those of you that don't remember. And again, Maisie gave my first opportunity on Gaythorne Street, and it was another lady called Maureen who gave me my second opportunity to get a shop. And she was a hairdresser, and she was wanting to come out of the business because she was going to a more natural route and became a Rastafarian and just wanted to sell her shop. And she said, well, I've got this shop, it's all fully loaded, everything's ready to go, this is how much money I want, and if you want to take the opportunity, then it's yours. So I looked at her, I said, I was like, yeah, why not? I think, if I remember correctly, I paid £2,000 or £3,000, but I paid it over time. I never missed a payment. She gave me the shop on credit. I made a good relationship with the landlord. Along the way, I dipped my toe into things that perhaps I shouldn't have been doing, to raise the funds.
We don't need that story.
That's a story for another day.
That
but,
director's cut, you know what I mean? No.
where there's muck, there's money.
Yeah.
But it wasn't nothing that it needs must, and this is being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And from the hood, from the ghetto, if you like, from the community, we had to do things that we needed to do in order to survive, and I don't regret any of the things that I've done, and I was always, the end goal was always to have the business and to have the shop. All I wanted was a barber shop, and now looking back, the university of life is the best university that you can go to. Again, growing up in the community taught me everything that I know. I then had the shop. The shop was that shop had a pool table in the basement. We had arcade games downstairs. We had...
I never went downstairs. I never got to go downstairs.
It was a big man thing, you couldn't really go downstairs. It was more of an adult environment. There were things going on down there that shouldn't have been going on down there,
But it was a good thing you never told me the arcade machine. Because if I knew arcade machines down there, you wouldn't have been able to stop me going down there.
We had all the old school. We had a big weights bench down there.
Fight.
It was interesting. It wasn't for kids because the guys were smoking down.
I always got that impression though. that downstairs wasn't for us. We was always upstairs getting cuts. You know what I mean? Because I was
that shop was
10, I think.
Like any traditional barber shop, it was full of jokes. It was full of everything happened in there. It was a laugh a minute. There were wars in there. There were fighting. There were arguments. There were football debates.
There's always football debates.
Thieving. There was pilfering. my CDs would get
Oh
stolen.
goodness.
My phones used to get stolen. My tapes would get stolen. They robbed the pool table while I was upstairs working.
How do you rob a pool table?
You take the money out of the leg.
Oh, they robbed the. I thought you meant they robbed the actual whole pool table. I thought they robbed the money. I thought you meant they robbed the whole pool table itself. I said, well, how do you get that out there?
You know,
But the thing out there.
I built this shop for the community, and then people were still taking, but it didn't matter because I still enjoyed it. I had fun. If you leave something out, some thieves are opportunists. Not everybody's as honest as everybody else, so they're gonna take advantage, and this is what happens sometimes. And again, you have to take these things in your stride. It's just one of those things. It's life, and looking back. At the time, I got a little bit annoyed and I was upset, but I always forgave. It didn't matter because I'll buy another phone, I'll get another CD. There was one kid who, Delroy, he's no longer with us, God rest his soul. He was a smoker, and he was sat in my shop smoking a cigarette, and his mum walked into the barber's.
Okay.
I don't even know if everybody knows his story. I hope he's. I'm going to tell it anyway because it was hilarious. And he immediately spat his cigarette out of his mouth onto my floor, put his foot on it, all smoke all around him, and his mum's just walked in the shop and burnt a big massive hole in my bloody lino.
Oh goodness.
Of my brand new shop. I was absolutely fuming at the time.
And did he still get caught? Was he still like his mum?
No, I don't know, but I mean, I've spoken to his, I've his family do know that it's a very funny story. But there's lots of little stories like that come to mind. There was another one where a really good friend of mine, he's my brethren, he's a soulmate. He's a gas engineer now. Stefan Redu. He's an amazing man. He's a family man, and he's got his own business and everything now. He came to get his hair cut, and I cut his hair, and he had on some fresh trainers, fresh white trainers. Anyway, he asked me for a towel, so I gave him this towel.
Yeah.
And I thought he's gonna wipe his brow, and I took my towel and started cleaning his trainers. I was like,
oh my!
What are you doing? I said, give me back my towel. You can't clean your trainers with my towel. He's like, what do you mean you got hair all over my trainers? I'm like, listen. Anyway, we had a heated debate. There was another one of his friends.
Was there a debate?
We had a heated debate, and he was like,
"Is it tough for people's heads? What's the debate?"
He was like, "Yo, man, shut your mouth." Anyway, he ran out the shop. I ran off with my phone.
Oh goodness!
Not my mobile phone. The payphone with all the money in it.
Oh goodness!
And he ran off up the side of the
Oh.
He ran off up the side of the where the nursery was. There was a nursery there. Kepler, yeah, that's right. Kepler, so I ran round the other way to cut him off. Anyway, he saw me drop the phone, and then. So that's another funny story.
Oh goodness!
But these things are what that bond people together.
Good times. Goodness.
Good times. There was a time my basement flooded over the New Year, and we couldn't play pool. There must have been a foot of water in the basement, and so because I couldn't get the water out, I got a load of wood and a load of 8x4 plywood. And we put bricks and we raised the floor above the water so that we could still play pool and use the basement and use the toilet. It was proper rags. It took the landlord like 4 weeks to kind of get this water out of the basement, but we didn't watch no face. We just carried on as normal. When you walked in the shop, it was just stunk. It was like damp, smelly sewer smell. It was disgusting.
4 weeks,
we just kept it moving. We just kept it rolling.
Yeah, man.
That shop was the bedrock that was the start of my training academy, because then I had this Jamaican guy come to me. He'd just come from yard, told me he was a barber. He said, yeah man, I can cut it. I said, really? So he'd come in the shop. The way he picked up the clippers, I knew he couldn't cut hair.
Right.
He'd never touched clippers in his life. I knew he might have done the odd couple of haircuts. By now, I'm a seasoned barber.
Yeah.
And I had another barber working for me, a gentleman called Ben. And I didn't know that I was going to be training barbers. I just, barbers would come and I had enough space, so I was renting chairs out to them. But they was all watching me. Everybody wanted to sit on my chair. I couldn't get no clients on anybody else's chair.
Right. So you had to get everyone on your level.
I had to get people on my level. So I was like, right, okay, now this is what I'm going to do next. I'm going to teach. So if I can duplicate myself a few times, this will be a good business.
Yeah.
But you've got to be willing to give. You've got to be willing to give your soul. When you're teaching, it's not, there's no half-heartedness. You can't try and teach somebody half your skill set, because that's no good, because again the clients are not going to trust the barber. You have to be able to give everything. And so my teaching career begun. Along the way I became, like I said, I was on the management committee for the Mandela Center and the Carnival Committee, and I was into music and entertainment. I discovered partying. And I'd started doing my own gigs, and how this came about again by accident. My entrepreneurial flair kicked in. I decided I was gonna have a party. I was getting booze bootlegged. Shoplifters would come in the shop. I'd get booze. I was working up at a place called Menworth Hill, up in Harrogate, where all the American troops come in. It's American soil. It's what's the word?
Not the embassy kind of thing.
It's not an embassy. It's all the American soldiers used to come over. It's a communications base.
Oh right, okay.
And they would spy on the rest of the world from, if anybody's been to Harrogate, there's some like big golf balls up there that you can see on the horizon as you go through Harrogate into Ripon. And it's an American communications base. It was all like top secret, top secret stuff goes up there. Once you drive onto that land, you're in America.
Okay, right.
Okay, so I had clients that came from up there, and I used to go to the base and cut hair on the base. And when I was on the base, I could fill my car up with fuel for next to nothing. I could buy alcohol with no tax. So I was getting loads. I used to leave the base with a boot full of booze, a tank full of juice, haircuts, new clients. It was all happening. I was making money for fun. I had everything at my disposal, and because I could get all this cheap booze, I decided I was going to run a blues, but it wasn't going to be a reggae blues. It was going to be a house and garage blues, because I was into house and garage. I grew up as a sound man, as a reggae man. My roots is reggae music. I'm very Jamaican. I can speak patois as much as the next man. I understand, I've embraced Jamaican culture because of where I'm from. My influences, my friends were all Jamaican and from Caribbean, so I kind of adopted blackness. As a mixed race I was more black than white. My mum's white, my dad was African. I was like embraced Caribbean culture and black culture. I loved it, absolutely loved it. I cooked Caribbean food. I dressed. I wore all the click suits. I was into designing my own click suits. I've still got a few in my wardrobe at home. I haven't parted with them. I used to buy all the Major Damage and all the click, and what was the other one? Calvin. Mr. Moose used to sell all the click suits.
No, not Calvin Klein.
Not Calvin Klein. It was a Calvin. Crisscross. Is it Crisscross? Cross colours.
Right, okay.
Yes, I was selling, again in my shop, I was selling click suits. I had a clothing line. I was selling out the barber shop. Everything was happening. Now I've got my first blues. I hired, it's above Dutch Pot. I forgot what the venue was called at the time. I hired there. I printed full colour flyers advertising that I'm going to have an illegal blues in Chapeltown. Drinks are £1 a shop, tickets £3 each. I advertised it on a flyer, not realising in my
that's evidence.
Yeah, that's evidence of an illegal party.
Yeah.
But me being me,
Just
I was like 21.
letting people know.
You know what I mean? I was ignorant. I think I was a bit naive to everything. Because everything, Cliff's Blues, Max's Blues.
Yeah, because it was like there's so many. There was so many. Shirley's not illegal.
But
Everyone's doing it.
Nobody was doing house and garage.
Yeah.
And jungle. So that's what I did. It was jungle. I used all the jungle. Nookie and Bigger did all the jungle set, and then Buddha, and what's his name? I'm forgetting people's names now. They will come back to me. I'm sorry. Ubs, Buddha and Ubs. There was Fud. There was all these young bedroom DJs that I'd come across that were playing house and garage, that didn't have a platform to play on. So I decided that I'm gonna set up a party, and by this point I was house and garage crazy, because I'd loved all the MCs. I was travelling to London every weekend to go out and party, twice as nice, and I used to go down to Vauxhall Drive down on a Sunday. I used to phone the lads on a Sunday afternoon. Listen, I would go London. Anybody on it? If they weren't, I'll drive down on my own. I went and met all the house and garage DJs, Pied Piper, Timmy Magic, the Dream Team, Carl Tough Enough Brown, and I just got into this house and garage thing, London garage. I couldn't get enough of it. It was absolutely amazing. And it was coming off the back of the jungle movement, when drum and bass and jungle was still jungle. Yeah, so I decided this party I'm going to do it. Anyway, the police came to my shop. Flyer in hand. Are you Brian? I'm like, yeah. Is this your party? I was like, yeah, that's my party. Have you got a drinks license? I was like, drinks license? So I've got a driving license. He said, you know you need to have a license for your drink? And I'm like, no. Have you got a music license? Anyway, they threw the book at me, told me if I have this party, I'm going to shut it down, and I'm not allowed to have it. Yeah. So I'd already sold like 100 tickets, to maybe a couple. I'd started selling tickets at £3 a go, so I couldn't cancel. So what I did was I got another venue. I put a note on the door of the venue where I was at. And I said, right, we've moved to Lamport. Yeah. So we moved the party to Lamport last minute, but they couldn't raid the Lamport because they couldn't get the judge out of bed. There's some bylaw with on Saturday
the warrant night. Kind of thing.
They couldn't get a warrant. So anyway, we run the party same way. What a party that was. We started off with jungle, and then about 1 o'clock we switched to house and garage, and the place went nuts. Because it was the first time we'd had a house and garage party in the hood. You had to go London, you had to go Birmingham. You could only go to these big venues to get house and garage, and I brought it to Chapeltown, Leeds, in the way of a blues, and it was amazing. Yeah. All this booze that I'd bought, we sold it. My brothers and sisters was on the bar. I made an absolute fortune. Come 5 o'clock, I'd almost sold out of everything. So what I did was I announced free bar. I gave my brothers and sisters, because I'd had enough. The party was still running, so it was free bar. People could help themselves. So we let the bar run, and then the police turned up at the party about 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning. Still, people falling about outside, everybody steaming. I was still going, and it was the same detective, and he looked at me, and I just laughed at him and smiled and said, it's a free party. I didn't even say. I just gave the drink away. They missed it. They didn't have no evidence. Everything was. The second weekend, I hired the West Indian Centre. Straight away, put on a night immediately. Did the same thing, and we did it again the following weekend, and that's when my music entertainment business started. So again, I got addicted to running parties, but my passion was to give bedroom DJs an opportunity and help them create a platform for them to kind of grow themselves and their brand. Yeah. And we had so much fun. I think at one time we had a party 6 days a week somewhere in Yorkshire. I was doing them in town. I was doing them in Bradford. We did them in Huddersfield. We did them in Hyde Park. We did them at Chapel Adder. And I think I did at your dad's pub. What's it called? Chapel Lantern.
Mexborough Foxes.
Foxes, yeah, I
Foxes,
did gigs
yeah.
with Foxes. I did it. I started going into R&B gigs. I was doing stuff in town. We did Harvey's on a Tuesday and a Thursday. We're doing stuff in Bradford on a Sunday. I brought Little Richard to the Mayflower. I did a gig with Miguel Campbell, DJ Science. He came and played in one of my gigs before. I started DJing. We had gigs in the Hayfield.
Yeah.
You know, so I'd become a music entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And then I got to the top of the. I linked up with some guys from London, Sun City, and again with my naivety, I told them I could get them venues in the north, and I managed to get Pleasure Rooms in Leeds, a club that had 2,000-3,000 capacity. I'd made it from the bottom to the, you know, I was just partying my socks off. I could not believe it. It was having fun. Some of my parties I lost money on because I would pay DJs up front.
Yeah.
Before we'd even done the gig.
Done the numbers, yeah.
And you know, some gigs are lost, but everybody that came always had a good time, and as long as people had a good time, I didn't mind about making the money.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the money, it was about the party and having the fun, and
Nice.
you know, I lost a lot of money. Anyway, in the end, the dream became a nightmare because when I got to the big time, in town, the clubs got the club got raided. People used to rush the doors to get in. I made more friends and enemies out of the industry.
Yeah.
I just took the whole thing for granted. The guys from London ripped me off and didn't pay me my fees after I'd paid for the club up front, and there were just lots of things that just went wrong. There were fights in the clubs. There was, you know, I managed to, through no fault of my own, got a bad reputation for being a club promoter. So that all fell apart. So again, I went back to the drawing board, went back to the chair, went back to my shop. This is over a period of about 2 years.
Yeah.
But I don't regret it because it all made the whole experience of becoming a businessman and entrepreneur,
just learning the pitfalls
the pitfalls, and that doing events has never left me, because all I did was I went back to my chair, rebuilt up the shop, and then kind of took it to the next, just carried on with the barbering, we're still in affirmations at this point. I'm still around the road.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm still around the road.
Yeah,
You might have to invite me back to get the rest of the story, because there's another whole new chapter after that.
Yeah.
Before you even get to where I'm at now.
Yeah, man.
I spent about 6 months sulking. I was at my chair sulking. Everything had gone wrong. I lost all my money. I nearly lost my shop. I was always out partying. I was still cutting hair full time, but I wouldn't get into the shop till like 10, 11 o'clock because I'd be out all night. And the party lifestyle got hold of me. And just it's what's the word? Oh dear. The culture. You know, being out all night, you can't be at work for 9 o'clock.
You can't. Yeah.
You know,
you can't
you're
do both the lifestyle. You can't the professional
run.
and the lifestyle.
So you know, clients were going crazy. Oh, I've been here all day. You had me waiting for 4 hours. But anyway, I got back to it, and the shop kept running, and I got back on top of the barbering, and I went back to the one thing I know I love, and has never let me down, which is my barbering. And I just built the shop back up, and we just kept it moving with the shop. The Jamaican barber that came to work for me that I said to you that had never cut hair before, he's now got his own shop in Bradford. He's been going over there for about 20 odd years. So he's got a shop called Right Fade. He's called Brian as well, by the way.
There's a few Brians out here.
He still talks really fast. He was from country in Jamaica, so when he spoke patois, you had to really listen. He's still a good friend of mine. I've not seen him for a number of years. But I know he's doing very well, and he's made a good career, and he was my first student and he was amazing.
Right, shout out to Brian, shout out to Right Fade.
Right Fade in Bradford,
Shout out
yeah.
to Right Fade in Bradford, man. Go
He's
check that place out as well.
Very dedicated to the
Yeah,
craft.
man.
And then I think along the way I got a little bit misguided, and I got a little bit lost, and I went back to my old ways of making money, and you know, one thing led to another, and then there was an unfortunate incident in the shop that caused a great deal of distress to myself and a few other people. And then affirmations came to an end, and I had to leave, and that's a story for another day.
Yeah. All right, so as it looks like we're gonna have to make this a part one.
Yeah, it's a part one.
End of part one of the story of Barber B. So as we close this out, if you'd like to promote, is there anything that you would like to promote for coming up in the coming months, or just details of where they can check out your business?
BarberB.com, piranhahairstudio.com, Barber B Brain Train. The Journey is my latest endeavour. I've got the Each One Teach One show, which is going to be a series of entertainment shows that's going to combine barbering and entertainment. I'm going to be doing some free barbering seminars and some workshops and stuff that's coming up. As it's my 30 years in business, I'm going to be kind of doing some free stuff. Again, giving back has always been a big thing for me. Most of the businesses that I've started for free, and it's turned into kind of reward and payment. I've never really done things for the money. It's for the reward of giving. I like to kind of give and empower people, and teaching is one thing that I've learned. Education, and I think it's a sin if I don't share my skills that I have. I have learned how to monetize what I do. I do exhibitions and hair shows. I do sell my services when I'm teaching in education. I've helped set up numerous colleges. I've been to numerous colleges up and down the country, and hair schools and barber shops, and I do a lot of work going into other people's barber shops and helping them turn around their businesses and give advice and do consultancy work. I do absolutely everything there is to do with this industry. So there's going to be, if you look out for some of those events, you'll see it on social media, and I'm sure you'll be able to attend, and you'll see I've got lots of little projects that are forthcoming in the near future as part of my 30-year anniversary in the industry. And also I'm going to be 50 this year, so that's another big benchmark.
Hey.
Ryan swore will be 50, Barber B's over 30.
Yeah, nice one.
So there's 2 big parties happening this year.
Yeah, man.
And I'm looking forward to sharing the journey with you all.
We all are.
Look out for the Barber B Brain Train.
Yes.
That's a separate entity. Each One Teach One, and Piranha Barber Academy and Hair Studio. I would like to give a massive shout out to my Piranha team down there that's led by my son Lamar, and on all the guys, and Sharice, make sure I get everybody, Kasim, Nisha, my daughter Sherelle, Leo, my granddaughter Italia, who's now working in the business, my daughter Naomi, Ben the barber, who has just recently gone and set up on his own, which is amazing. Tyrone, he's gone and set up his own shop recently. Matty, Connor, Amanda, Teresa, Ashley. The list is all these people that used to work for me. Natalie, there's so many people who've come through the Piranha, the Piranha Hair Studio and the Barber Academy doors that have got their own businesses and have helped me along the way. I've got to say thank you to everybody that's ever kind of worked for me or been involved in my business or done training with me, without all of you people helping me and empowering me, I wouldn't be who I am today and have had the great success that I've got and I've always had. So I'd like to kind of thank everybody. I look forward to doing the part 2 to this because it'll take us on to the next part of the journey. I've gone backwards and forwards and up and down, and you know there's loads more to the tale.
Oh, definitely.
There's loads more to the tale.
Oh, we'll be happy to have you back, man. We're honoured. Okay,
and I've really enjoyed today, and I want to thank you.
Oh, thank you,
Bravo,
Hey, until next time, man. Yeah, shout out to Nana.
And
yeah,
the gentleman
man
in
on
the
the
back
cam.
room.
Yes, shout out to Weeksy. LG, man. Yeah, man. We're just slowly, surely building up, man. We're just trying to just document everything down, man, and get this thing going, man. Yep. That's where we are right now. Set the Pace Studios.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's
man.
Been a pleasure.
Yes. Until next time. Yes, this thing called Podcast J Bravo signing off.
Tell me what you know. Tell me what you know.